All right, so we're gonna get started.
Yes, well, get it.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the I Wanna Work in the Industry panel. My name is Britteny Soto. I'm the Senior Talent Acquisition Partner for Green Thumb Industries and Rise Dispensaries. I oversee all of our national hiring. This is gonna be a really awesome conversation amongst a very diverse group up here that have very different perceptions and different experiences within the space. So I'm going to kick it off by have them introduce themselves. So we'll start with Paul. Do you want to introduce yourself and what you do here and what you're doing here?
Hi, my name is Paul Lee, and I work at Dispensary 33 as a general manager and floor person, back picker, hiring manager.
Hi, my name is Beniamino Capellupo, and I am the Executive Director of the Service Employees International Union. And we represent workers in the cannabis industry, along with our other union, the United Food and Commercial Workers as well. So, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shawnee Williams. I am a principal at Illinois Equity Staffing. We do recruiting and job placement in the cannabis industry here in Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you guys. So we're gonna kick it off by starting with a presentation by the lovely Shawnee about what it is to work in the industry, and then of course we'll kick off some Q&A. You know, me asking some questions to these individuals, and then we'll open it up to you guys for additional questions as well. So Shawnee?
Thanks, Brittany. So on behalf of Illinois Equity Staffing, I do want to thank you guys for taking time out of your weekend, your personal time to come to this event. It means that you're invested in this industry already. Illinois Equity Staffing, which is the company I work with. We're going to do an overview of careers that can be found in the cannabis industry. And then we're going to talk about the careers and jobs that are available right now if you were to be searching and on the job hunt. And then we're going to talk about investing in your career. What's next? What are your next steps? You guys, if you're looking for a handout, I think there are a few volunteers kind of passing out one-pagers that's going to summarize what we're talking about here. So just going to hop in. So Illinois Equity Staffing is a minority, veteran, and women-owned company based here in Chicago. It's comprised of individuals like myself who are from disproportionately impacted areas who have been born and raised here. We're a responsible vendor, so we do dispensary agent training and certification classes all over the state, but we also do other classes like cannabis in the workplace. We want to make sure there's a lot of awareness for everyone, young people, people who have not been exposed to cannabis, so we understand how this is going to affect the state as a whole. Our passion is really making sure that people who have been affected by the war on drugs and those who are from disproportionately impacted areas have the exact same opportunities as everyone else in the market. We specialize in HR administration. We also specialize in payroll processing for the cannabis industry, and we provide our clients with social equity and diversity compliance reporting and snapshots. So, we're going to talk really quick about very basic, just surface level careers that you can really look out for. From the dispensary side, which is the retail side, for those who don't know, what we most see when we walk into a dispensary are those either the customer care specialist, the patient care specialist, dispensary agents. Some people call them bud tenders. The job is pretty much the same. The role is the same, depending on how big the team is. But we also have store managers. So those would be considered our dispensary agents in charge. So those are people that have a little bit more experience, and they have a little bit more responsibility as well to go with that experience. Depending on the size of the team for that company, you're also going to start seeing, as the team grows, they'll become departments, right? So you'll have operations, you'll have human resources will develop, so you'll have like someone who does training, someone who does recruiting, someone who actually just handles HR in general. That would be considered an HR generalist. You'll probably have an accounts receivable, accounts payable person. So all of the jobs that we see now in all the other industries, you'll begin to see that on teams that are larger in the cannabis industry. So just keep that in mind as well. So any of you that are out there that work professional jobs could very well work in the industry in the same line of work that you're doing right now. Now, Illinois is going to have transport licenses. Applications are due March 16th at 5 p.m. And so what we can expect to see are driver positions, security positions, logistics specialists, armed guards, people who are doing dispatch. Logistics specialists will be people that are going to do all the coordinating as far as the operation is concerned. For cultivation and craft grow, typically we have positions, you'll see trimmer, grower agent, cultivation agent, craft grow agent, lab testing, research and development, so R&D, quality control, it really, possibilities are endless. And then as we move into the infuser processing space, we're gonna see positions, very entry-level positions like packaging, people who are working on the production line. There's usually several stations on the production line, so depending on the team, you may get to rotate and actually learn all of the different stations and even come up for a promotion as a station manager. Most of the processing, depending on what's being processed, are gonna be pretty general manufacturing positions. So anyone that has a background working in manufacturing, in receiving, in packaging, it's all transferable skills. Now, bless you. So the last part that I want you guys to take a look at is what I call ancillary or ancillary. This could be working for a company that specializes in this, or this could be working for a department within the actual cannabis business itself. So that's going to be, and this is not the whole list. This is just kind of scratching the surface. Legal, accounting, marketing and packaging, HR, health and wellness, lab testing, technology software, security and IT, media publishing, tourism and events. Right? So those are all ancillary to the cannabis industry. So just if you guys were to go and search on LinkedIn or go search on Google or go search on Facebook jobs or Indeed, these are the jobs you're going to see right now in the cannabis industry right now today. So we have bud tender, which is once again, AKA dispensary agent, inventory specialist, dispensary manager, cultivation craft grow agent, kitchen edible chef, pharma sales rep, processing agent, technician. These are jobs right now that are available. Packager, trimmer, security officer, loss prevention specialist, driver, harvest tech, rules and regulations specialist, extraction specialist. So those are what you can see if you decided that you wanted to submit your resume right now. What I really want to touch on is that Bill 1438, while it isn't perfect, we all know that, it's one of the most, if not the most, progressive and inclusive bills in the world. Illinois had the biggest opening day across the United States. We were able to bring in revenue of $10 million in the first 5 days and $20 million in the first 12. And that's with some dispensaries actually taking a break on retail sales. This bill is going to require every single one of us to work together to make a very unique ecosystem for the Illinois market, because everyone is watching us, watching Illinois to see if all this work that was put in was worth it, okay? So what can you do to get started, to get involved? There's a lot that you can do. The first thing that I want everyone to do is take a look at your resume and see what transferable skills you have that are unique to you that can be transferred over to the cannabis industry. Also update your LinkedIn profile. Next, you want to go and make sure you're educating yourself. Now, for all of us, that could be something different. That could be reading a book, that could be going to a class, that could be going to a workshop, that could be just reading up on articles every day, saying you're going to commit to 15 minutes of reading cannabis news every day. But whatever it is, just make sure that you're committing to that and you're investing in yourself with knowledge. Those that are interested in higher education, understand that Illinois is going to be granting 8 licenses by September 1st to state colleges in a vocational program in agriculture. So be looking out for that. Be looking out for those programs that are going to go all across the state of Illinois, because that's another great way to increase your knowledge right here in your home state. One thing I want to note here is that we all advocate for ourselves. We have to go out on a limb and increase our own knowledge and go get that job. The job's not going to be handed to you. It's just like any other industry. So you need to make sure that you stand out from the rest. Whatever that looks like for you, that's you. So whether that's creating a landing page so that people know what you do and know what you're up to and have a blog, and whatever that looks like, just make sure that it sets you aside from the competition. Make networking a priority. So you guys coming to this event, even though this is your day off, this is your personal day, you could have been home with family, you could have been watching TV, you came out, you're meeting people, so you're getting business cards. Don't just throw those business cards on the dresser and not reach out to those people. Email those people, let them know that you greatly appreciate talking to them and meeting them, and you're hoping to stay in touch, and then actually stay in touch. So every month, or do some kind of cadence where you're reaching out to these people and say, hey, I'm just checking in, just want to see what you're up to. I'm going to be going to this event. I hope to see you there. Very simple. So, but make networking a priority. If you don't do anything else, make networking a priority. Internships. They're few and far in between, but there may be a few internship, part-time opportunities and apprenticeships that may come up. So be on the lookout for that. So you guys can put Google alerts on your phones, on your computers, and you'll get emails and notifications about jobs and apprenticeships and even events if you'd like. Next, you want to subscribe to blogs, to subject matter experts, organizations like Chicago Normal that you want to follow and keep up with them so that you know what's going on around where you live in your territory. The very last thing I want you guys to do is to do you. So what I mean by that is a lot of people come to us and they say, hey, I want to sell weed. And that's cool, but you have a PhD in electrical engineering. Why would you do that? Don't do that. So not all of us have the path of being a bud tender. Some of us have other paths. So you got to sit down and you got to think about your path and see where you fit in the industry, whether that be outside supporting the industry in an ancillary business or inside in a plant touching business. And that's all I have for the presentation.
Thank you, Shawnee. So clearly there's a lot of jobs in the industry, but most importantly, personally, I know at GTI, at Rise, we've seen an influx, especially since January 1st, of all of these applications, right? There's a lot out there. We've gotten thousands, literally thousands of them since the first of the year. So my question to the panel here is, when you're out there, when you're applying for these jobs, taking all of Shawnee's advice and getting out there, how do you really distinguish yourself? How do you really set yourself apart when it comes to all you have is this submission online? How do you set yourself apart? Paul? Anything to add?
I think the really easiest answer is a really good cover letter.
Yeah.
I really do read them because a lot of times when you're reading lots of resumes, it's lots of just the same old one-lining experience, but a part of explaining who you are and maybe why your PhD might be able to help can really help in that cover letter, which sometimes is the only paragraph you're going to get to really distinguish yourself. So make it a good one.
I second that. We get so many people who submit the ZipRecruiter resume, and it's usually just a high school diploma. You guys want to tell your story. And I'm not saying talk about your demographics or anything like that, but we want to know who you are. It's almost like an elevator pitch. I would say that a cover letter is your elevator pitch. And anytime you submit a job in any industry, make sure you actually have written a cover letter for that job, for that specific company. So I agree with Paul.
Just to add a little bit, pay attention when a job has application questions. They're there for a reason. I know personally we do a lot of personality-based opportunities to show yourself. The number of people who just, say see resume in that answer, and I'm just like, whoa, why didn't you even try? You had an opportunity there. We gave it to you. So use those moments. I know it's easy to just click apply, click apply, click apply. Put some purpose behind it, and it really, really shines through. Sometimes we're looking at the application questions before we even look at your resume, because we know that your resume isn't everything in this industry. None of us have the experience in it, so that's awesome. Thanks, Paul. Sorry to call you out there. So obviously there's, again, lots of opportunities. They're kind of all over the place. They're in the grow, they're in retail, they're in the corporate and ancillary functions like Shawnee said. In you guys' opinion, which of those areas have the most room for growth? Or is it just growth everywhere?
I mean, definitely cultivation, right? Because there's so many jobs available there. Yeah, literal growth. I mean, and then retail very much so, just because so much work in cultivation is needed right now. We're not even close to filling the demand of Illinois. So you're gonna see, and then that will trickle down to all the ancillary ones that you talked about. So I think it's first there and then everywhere else after that.
Yeah, cultivation, absolutely, right? I mean, there's such a shortage right now. I think I'm really interested to see where the craft grow world goes in this. Are a lot of folks going to apply for those licenses, right? What are they going to do with them? I think that part is fascinating, how creative it can be. So that's something I think to keep an eye on.
I don't know if the area for room for growth, I could say, would be one line of business. It probably, if I had to say, I would probably say how large the company is, right? So this goes for any industry. If you're looking at an industry and you apply to, a startup or a company that's family owned, or just a smaller company, a company that has a smaller team, while, benefits and pay not be the same, the experience may be a lot more experience because you're wearing a lot of hats when you work for a startup company or a smaller company. On the flip side, when you're working for a larger company, everything is so much more organized because they've been doing it much longer and they have a bigger team and they have a lot of departments. And so your room for growth and your career path may be much more clear when you're working for a larger company. So I think it kind of depends.
Absolutely. One thing we see a lot of people, I know all these tables have probably been asked this in tenfold, is do you need cannabis experience? I mean, at this point, the industry has grown so much. We're a few years in, whether you're coming from the West Coast or whatever the case may be. The hot button question is, how important is that cannabis experience really? So anything to add there?
Definitely not. Almost nobody that I've hired has had cannabis experience, so definitely not. But I think now, because you say there's a medical industry, if you have cannabis experience, it really helps. However, if you're outside of Illinois and have experience, it's a whole different ballgame once you're inside of Illinois. So I don't think you absolutely need cannabis experience. I think what is necessary is for you to explain how the experience you've had can relate to how it can help us in the shop, especially if you don't have cannabis experience. Plus, sort of raging desire to be in cannabis helps too, because certainly a lot of people have that as well. So somehow conveyance of those things are really important in the job interview process for me, anyway.
So before I answer this question, I forgot to mention if there's any Cresco workers in the audience. Congratulations on winning your union at Joliet. Those workers are not unionized. So, yes, clapping is cool. So on this question, actually, like the cannabis experience, and then I actually want to go back a little bit on the growth side of actually too. So yeah, the cannabis, like a lot of the folks that we are talking to that we are unionizing in this world have not been in this world, right? And like, I think that when you talked about the grow question, actually, I want to sort of change my answer a little bit and say that the industry is going to grow, but parallel to that industry is the workforce that's going to grow with it, right? And that there should be no reason that the workforce doesn't grow. And what I mean by growing is real jobs, right? With real wages and real benefits, and real health insurance, right? Those are the growth opportunities if the workers so choose that path, I think so.
I don't really think I need to add anything. The only thing I would say is that the clients we work with, some are looking for experience and some aren't. It really depends. I think the bill was written for all of us to have an equal chance, experience or not. And so if you're willing to get the experience under your belt and, start entry level, I think there's definitely room. And to Paul's point, he mentioned a lot of clients will say, hey, I need someone entry level. They don't have to have any experience with cannabis, but it'd be great if they had social media experience because we need help on our social media account. So that's what I mean when I say transferable skills.
And I think, Paul hit the nail on the head with the passion piece and being able to display that. I think that's half the battle. I mean, it's a lot of work to be in this space. And if you aren't passionate about it, you are going to burn out. It's more work than you could possibly imagine. And so having that passion is really going to be the thing that drives you forward. So clearly all of you guys here have that. And so you're already one step ahead. So that's good. On the subject, Benny, since you brought up the Cresco and the union agreement, as part of the law, cannabis companies have the right to enter into labor peace agreements, right? So what are the benefits? And, as the expert on the panel, tell me a little bit more about what the benefits are of entering such agreement.
Yeah, so as part of the law, myself, the Service Employees International Union, which represents the security side of this world, which is going to be privatized. That's not going to be direct employees of cannabis companies, cultivation companies, right? And then there's another union called the United Food and Commercial Workers, which will represent the direct employees of cannabis world. So as part of the law, it incentivizes companies, because it's a merit-based system on how you get a license. It incentivizes cannabis companies. They get 5 points if they enter into a labor peace agreement with a labor union. And really what that is that they get 5 points, and in exchange for those 5 points, they let their workers free from intimidation, free from an anti-union campaign, to choose whether or not they want a union. It'll be by an election, but there won't be pressure from the employer to do so, right? And in exchange for that, the union can't strike or do anything like that as well. So really, we think it's a win-win situation for both sides, for the worker side and for management, because we do think that it's going to be very hard to retain employees because it's going to be a very, very competitive 5 years here, right? And so I think that if you have some sort of labor peace and labor harmony, and you are listening to what your employees and you are collectively bargaining with them, I think that you can create an industry that's both good for the management side of this world, the owner side of this world, and the worker side of this world. So in short, what labor peace agreement is that essentially there's nobody fights each other, and the workers get to choose by themselves in a free and fair process whether or not they want a union. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So, clearly this industry has seen a ton of growth, right? LinkedIn reports in 2018, there was about 130,000 people in the cannabis industry nationwide. Today, that has increased to 215,000. Whoa. So when we look towards the future and future growth, where do you guys think we'll be in 5 years? Where do we see the growth in the sector over the next few years?
Ancillary businesses.
That's like your...
Yeah.
Everyone, I think right now, because of the media, we all are focused on the plant. That's what everyone's focused on. And while the plant is going to drive this industry, no doubt, there's going to be so much growth in industries that support the cannabis industry. And we're talking technology, we're talking security, we're everything, from even pesticides. Like every industry is going to be affected by the cannabis industry. And I definitely believe, there's a saying, right? Everyone uses the saying that in the gold rush, the people that made the most money in the gold rush were the people who sold the picks and the axes. So that's ancillary businesses.
Yeah, just to back you up on that, like we've seen just in the last 6 months, and there's a ton of security companies in the state of Illinois, but we've seen like 5, 6, 7, I think it was 5 to 7 new companies start up that just want to play in this world. So yeah, the ancillary side of this is significant for sure.
Very good. Awesome. So one of the things and one of the ways we grow is through diversity, right? And so how are companies ensuring diversity in a workplace in this industry? It's certainly a unique space. I mean, diversity is diversity, inclusion's better, right? So how are we seeing, and you can speak to your own businesses, on how diversity is being embraced and where it stands on the priority spectrum for your companies?
So my answer is going to be a little weird, but I don't place any actual importance on diversity. I just hire based on who I think can do the job, and somehow I think my staff is very, very diverse, because when you pick on a blind eye, you don't pay attention to male, female, color, skin, race, whatever. You just look at the things that you think that person is going to give you when you're hiring them. So if you don't even pay attention to those things, you kind of end up in a place like Chicago, at least for my own business. We have a very diverse crew that just kind of naturally formed itself. Now, I think going forward, I think diversity, because we've had that diversity, it's a very nice place to work. In the terms that, I don't know, you have to learn to deal with like every sort of type of person there. It really doesn't matter who you are. You're not anything special. So I think it exhibits a true kind of, I don't know, a Chicago feel, a city feel of diversity, a mixing pot. And I think it's ultimately one of the most important things you could have in your work staff.
So I see diversity across the board when working with clients, from ownership all the way down to working with contractors and subcontractors. And remember, diversity is not just ethnicity. I know a lot of people assume, because that's what you think of when you think of diversity.
That's what you see.
But diversity is religion, disability status, even having people who are different, coming from different generations. Veteran status, that is all women, men, that's diversity is across the board, right? And then social equity is socioeconomic. And so usually when we're working with clients, we're seeing it from ownership to employees to even contractors. There will be clients that'll call us and be like, hey, I'm just wondering if you know a veteran-owned security company. And we're like, we have a few, actually. That's weird that you asked that. But people are looking for such unique things, and I think we just need to make sure that we know diversity is not just our racial background.
So on this question, it's actually you actually. So when we were talking to dispensary companies about what security companies they should own, we made it a point to not just give them the biggest security company. We made it a point, we gave them a list of all unionized security companies, but we made sure that we said, well, are you looking for a women business enterprise? Are you looking for a minority business enterprise? And some of the dispensary companies, or some of the applicants, I shouldn't say companies because they're applicants still, were like, oh my God, yes, right? And then we sort of helped them walk through the process of how this would be beneficial to their application, to tell a story that, hey, they're hiring folks that are of minority business or women business enterprise. And And I think lastly, like on a sort of like 30,000 foot level, when the Service Employees International Union and when the United Food and Commercial Workers Union were working on this bill last year in Springfield, the most important thing to us should have been the labor piece, right? But it wasn't. It really was the social equity side and the expungement side of this world, right? Because if we didn't get that right, like, I don't think the rest of it mattered. So.
Yeah, and just to add just a little bit, it's important to be intentional, right? When it comes to diversity, you have to be intentional. You know, I know personally we are lucky here in Chicago, for sure. The diversity in Chicago is a beautiful thing. Looking around this room is a beautiful thing. It's not in every one of our states, right? It's not always, so you have to be intentional. You know, personally, I know we look at the demographic, the age group, everything, because in a dispensary setting especially, you get every walk of life. And when that walk of life comes into the dispensary setting, they need to be able to see themselves. You know, it could be sharing stories about being in the service together. It could be the neighborhood you came from. Heck, it could be a little bit of everything. And so being very intentional about making sure that our dispensaries reflect the communities in which we serve, and being intentional about that outreach. And I know that's something that we do personally at GTI and RISE. So yeah, the intention is there, and be purposeful with it, not just say you're gonna tackle diversity. So very good. So there's obviously a lot of really amazing organizations that are in this space that you can partner with, right, in order to achieve many different things. So we talk about vendors, we talk about staffing and hiring. You know, what organizations do you recommend to those looking to break into the industry or to grow themselves within it?
So from like a professional standpoint, there are a few that you definitely should look into that are very cost effective. One is Chicago Normal. Just coming to their meetings that they have monthly, getting to meet people that are literally trying to get in the same line of business that you are. One of the meetings I went to, I think it was in October, it had to have been 80 people there. And we weren't even legal recreationally. So definitely Chicago Normal. I would suggest being a member if you could be a woman or a man. Illinois Women in Cannabis. There are a lot of associations and groups that you can be a part of to really find your place in the cannabis space.
Definitely second the Illinois Women in Cannabis. A lot of people go to that event, so it's a good networking one.
I second both of those, and I add in a Minorities for Medical Marijuana, SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy. So many more university-based groups actually are starting to pop up everywhere. So there's a lot of opportunities, but I definitely second Normal. They're fantastic, as well as Illinois Women in Cannabis. So very good. Awesome. We're all in the industry, for better or for worse, through this growth. I mean, it's not easy, right? It's been amazing to be part of history, certainly here locally and nationally. But what are some of the pros and cons of working in the industry? Like, be real here. What are the pros and the cons?
The hours are long, especially right now because it's so robust, and I work in a dispensary, so we're open all day. It's really hard retail work. It's thoroughly enjoyable, and I literally love my job. Absolutely, I love helping people choose what kind of cannabis they want, or tell them how edibles are going to work and all that. It's repetitive. I do it like 200 times a day, right? So those are some negative parts, right? It's just like any other really robust retail job. Like at some point, it's gonna be the same Tuesday, that it was last week too. That being said, I do think the incredible diversity you find in people that shop in cannabis make it really interesting, really rewarding. I think the kinds of people you meet and the kind of graciousness they show you when you help them is unbelievable. The kind of generosity they have when they shop is also unbelievable. It's amazing. So like the pros far outweigh the cons as far as I'm concerned, especially when you're trying to bring something like cannabis to the society in America.
So I think coming this from the worker point of view, I think, yeah, the hours are long. It's a lot of what we hear. I think what's really interesting, and I don't know if other panels have touched on this, is the ability for employers to buy health insurance and set up pensions because of federal regulations, right? And I think there is still some low wages in this world, right? And so I think that those are challenges, and they're real challenges, which can be helped with folks having a union, because we can open up our pension funds to that world, and I don't want to get in the weeds too much on that. And our health funds, we can open those up to that. So from the worker point of view, I think that those are probably some of the biggest challenges that we're hearing. And can the worker side grow and keep up with how fast this industry happens in the next 5 years, right?
So I totally agree with the hours are long, which is why I think it's been said a few times that you need to have the passion for the work. But one of the challenges that I've seen with the ancillary side of things for entrepreneurs is the funding. So when you're an ancillary business, depending on your client base, you know, if you're 100% supporting the cannabis industry, you're considered a cannabis business. With that being said, you're not a plant touching business either, depending on what you do in your ancillary business. So finding that private funding and really getting your baby up and running, we've seen a lot of people we work with and we've met that to be the challenge for them to get started. You can't go to a bank and ask for a loan because you're a cannabis business. So it's all going to be private funding. And so that's why I tell a lot of people, if you're an accountant right now, you can absolutely stay in your regular accounting job, working 40 hours, a week, and start your side baby of accounting for cannabis businesses, whether they are ancillary or not. So that's one challenge I've been able to identify.
I think, like it's been said, the pros certainly outweigh the cons. There's so much opportunity to grow and to become a thought leader, become an expert at whatever it is that you are a part of. But the hours are long. It is hard work. It never stops. It's always changing. So you have to be nimble, and you have to be agile, and you have to roll with the punches. And sometimes something goes down and you're like, well, let's try that again, and you can't get bogged down in the defeats because they will come. And so you do have to be a little bit more nimble and a little bit more self-aware when in yourself. So yeah, for sure. All right, and so there's some recruiting firms out there that specialize in cannabis placement and staffing. And so, what are some recruiting firms that you've had success with and or worked for or with in your time? Yeah.
I've never worked with a recruiting firm. Yeah. You can send a resume to info@dispensary33.com. That's
I haven't worked with any other staffing company, but there actually are a few. There's one here, besides me. I'm not being funny.
THC Staffing Group is back there, Danielle.
Yeah, THC, right?
Yeah.
THC Staffing, and there are a few people that do it just on a consultant basis. They don't necessarily have like an office, but they do it, on a job requisition basis. They go by job assignments. You can find staffing companies if you just Google search cannabis staffing, and it'll come up. A lot of the companies work nationally. You probably want to work with someone who's local here and knows Illinois and knows Chicago. And then there's us.
Shameless plug. All right, very cool. I think we're going to open up to Q&A to the audience so that we can tackle some of the questions that you all have. about getting to work in the industry.
Any questions?
Right here.
We're going to try to evenly get the questions to both sides, okay? So about 10 minutes left overall. So we're going to try to get as many in as possible.
Oh, this question is for Shawnee. I was wondering, are you guys...
We're listening. Just a little closer.
I am so sorry.
No problem.
I'm so
I was wondering, are you guys doing
can't hear
any
you.
type of training as far as HR? I work in healthcare, and a lot of my constituents and co-workers that work for different companies, none of the companies have any policies and procedures in place. So I have a staff, and I actually called all the way up to the CEO last week, and there has been nothing put in place. And I was wondering, is there anything that's coming out, like to train these companies or help them set up programs to deal with the legal use of...
That's a great question. So her question, you guys, is what are we doing with cannabis in the workplace? We facilitate classes on that, and we go out in the community. I actually met someone that's from a church, and they want to be able to teach people who are obviously churchgoers that know nothing about the flower, how this is going to affect them in the workplace. We have a class on February 20th on 2255 East 72nd Place, I believe. And it's just a 2-hour workshop. But there will be several workshops to come out. It's just cannabis in the workplace. Just look for cannabis in the workplace. Just a tidbit, for the most part, alcohol, whatever the rules are for alcohol, for the most part, will be the same, except medically speaking. Absolutely. So you're talking about testing. Yeah, so,
Right.
So I think that's going to be a challenge for all employers, and we got to figure out how, and that's probably why you haven't gotten an answer, because they want to make sure that they do this right. I guarantee you they're in talks to make sure they do it right. The testing part is going to be very difficult because we got to make sure.
And there's a lot of research being done on how to do that. I've heard some conversations about it. It's going to be something unique to tackle, but the conversations are being had to try to find a solution on how to tackle it.
So, just really quickly to touch on this. So we represent downtown janitors and downtown security officers. So when you walk into commercial buildings, the folks that clean those buildings, the folks that you show your ID to get upstairs to wherever you need to go to, they have a contract with SEIU and with the building owners of all the buildings in downtown Chicago. We were able to collectively bargain the elimination of random testing on this issue, right? Now, if an accident happens, yes. Let's just show you sort of the benefits of what it means when you come together collectively. The employers can't no longer randomly test somebody, right? Because we all know what happens and why that's there, right? So that's sort of what we've done in this world to try to address that.
All right, cool.
So one of the general job titles that you had up was pharma sales rep. So I was just wondering if you guys could explain that role.
Can you say that again, the title again?
The title was pharma sales rep, and I was also just interested about sales positions beyond the retail environment.
Yeah. So there's a ton. Pharma sales rep is maybe not the best, but there are obviously sales representatives that are working for the wholesalers, going out there, going into the dispensaries like D33 and hopefully trying to get their products in their doors, educating their staff about the products, getting out there and doing field marketing. And then you could change that a completely different way. Actually, I have people who've been formally in traditional pharmacy sales and actually transitioned pretty well into outreach, working with doctors to educate them on what cannabis options they have to provide to their patients, and just helping them more. So there's a lot of different ways that sales component can really address, including recruitment. Honestly, recruitment and sales. So there's a lot of different avenues, but I think when we're talking about that pharma sales rep, there are sales individuals that do work on the behalf of the wholesalers. I know personally here at GTA, we have a sales team out there.
Hi, this is for anybody on the panel. I had a question about...
Speak
a
up a
little
little
closer,
bit.
so.
I had a question about like some of the ancillary positions, or i.e., let's see, like plumbing or electrical or any kind of, trade type jobs.
Literally, the possibilities are endless. I had a guy come to our booth at Oakton, and he was an HVAC specialist, and he wanted to be a bud tender. And I was like, no, why? You've been doing this for 20 years. This is you. This is what you've been doing. And he didn't even know that we need HVAC in the cannabis industry. So anything that, you said plumbing, correct? I would assume cultivators and craft growers and possibly infusers are gonna need partners that are contractors and subcontractors to work on plumbing projects. That's what I would assume.
And the interesting thing is, and just to piggyback off that, is that there was a time when you needed to become a bud tender or whatnot to get into the space. That was a very real part of 5-10 years ago. Today, the size of these companies, I mean, it's just extramental. And so, yeah, staying exactly where you are is very much needed, including especially plumbing, honestly, in the cultivation centers for sure.
Yeah, I also wanted to say that because all the businesses around cannabis, like in Illinois, are doing better, everything that they need or use or buy kind of increases as well. So there's so much ancillary opportunity, even if you don't jump in the industry. I totally agree.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for this wonderful event. And thank you, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. My name is Christy, and I am an independent publicist, event planner, and I handle clients' promotions and marketing materials. So kind of piggybacking off of his question, I know that there are opportunities for my field and what I do, and what I'd like to ask each and every one of you is, after this is over, if I could please get your contact information so I could set up a personal meeting, and also invite you all to one of our clients' restaurants where we want to do some cannabis-infused dining. And I would really like to meet with you at the dispensary to see how we could host some promotional events to get you some more business. So that's all. I just wanted to make sure I introduce myself to you all and make sure when this is over, I can connect with you all finally.
Kudos to you.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Hello. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Is there some sort of way that veterans can get together and open up their own dispensary? Because, like, if we paying city tax, state tax, why can't, and federal tax, why isn't cannabis, federal in the state of Illinois? It just says that they state, instead of being federal. Because at the VA, they give us medications like morphine, Oxycontins, all that, which is not really good for us. But if we take the cannabis and we take a drop, we come up hot, and that goes against us.
I didn't hear the question at all.
Thank you.
Did you hear it?
So
Can you repeat the question a little bit? Can you just speak into the mic?
Oh, okay. Is that better? Is there some sort of way that veterans can get together and open up their own cannabis dispensary? And why is it that if we paying city tax, state tax, and federal tax on cannabis, why can't it be federal so that I'll be able to get it from the VA instead of getting the pills that they offer me?
The second question, I don't believe is for us. That would be a toy No.
Yeah.
We couldn't answer that second question. We couldn't tell you why the government is not approving it federally. But as far as the first question, you said, how can what people work together? Are you saying veterans? You need to network.
Yeah.
There are people looking for partners. I guarantee you there's several hundred here today. You need to find them though, to work with partners. And one thing I'll say is what I'm finding here in Illinois and Chicago is that people are kind of afraid to work with people they don't know or partner with people, but that's the only way we're going to be successful is if we all work together.
Right.
What's that center on the west side? The west side? I forgot it.
THC Center or Dispensary.
Oh, wow. THCC. Very cool. I mean, it's all about, you know, to your point, social media is a big driver. You never know. You know, you asking this question right now might have had 10 people perk up and say, hey, I want to talk to that guy. You know, the process isn't easy. You know, I know at GTI we have this program called LEAP. I think, you know, Cresco talked about their C program. There are some programs that can help you through the process of becoming a business owner and writing an application. But you really do need, to your point, a community. And if you're looking for like-minded veterans, I'm sure there's tons here. There's lots of veteran-owned businesses in this space that may very well want to join forces. And I know we work with a lot of veteran-owned businesses. So a dispensary is no small feat, but yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to ask, there's a lot of training companies here, and I wanted to know if there were any more that were highly considered more than others in terms of qualifications. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
There's some really great organizations here, some that we work with. You know, it's interesting when it comes to certifications and things like that. Some are required, some aren't. You know, anything helps with the learning curve. I think they're all equal paying grounds. I won't pick favorites right here in front of 3,000 people, but there's you have a lot of great options. I consider all of them to be great options.
I think anyone who offers a responsible vendor training, because that is a necessary piece of training that you need, and it's basically going to teach you Illinois law, which you should know going in, just because it makes it a lot easier. You know, in the interview, if you can speak to those things, that's going to do you benefit because you already have an idea and a knowledge and a background in terms of understanding Illinois law and how to navigate it when you're doing the job that you're doing.
And any program, whether it's in cannabis or not, anything that's offering you a certification. So we see Chicago State University, College of DuPage are popping up with these programs. Whether it's cannabis or otherwise, if you have a certification, that already is giving you a leg up because it shows that you can accomplish something, you pursue something. So it's any type of certification is interesting because I look at people with any type of licensing, whether it's cosmetology, massage licensing, that tells me a lot about that person, individual of the actual license.
So if you're looking for the list, it's on the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, that list of responsible vendors that they're talking about. There's 26 organizations. GTI is one of them. We're one of them. There's probably 6 others in the room. I would say find an organization that speaks to you, really that lines up with what your values are. We have a lot of people that'll get on interviews with us and they're like, I need a job. I'm like, great, obviously you need a job, so what are we talking about here? What do you know? And they'll be like, it's legal. Great, that's great. I'm so glad you understand it. It's legal, but what research have you done? What articles, what media have you been keeping up with? Show me that you've taken an extra step to stand out and to invest in this industry. It's not going to be handed to you. It won't be.
And that one last thing, because this is a high ticket item, like people talk about this a lot, but don't also expect that certification or license or whatever it is to give you a job, okay? That's a piece of it, but you can't say, oh, I have my hemp staff certification. Thank you for a job. No, you have to put a little bit more forth for that. Those things are great, but it's not gonna give you a ticket. It's not a golden ticket.
All right, we have our final question here.
Hi, my name is John Dalton, and I just wanted to know about the craft growers license. There's a $5,000 non-refundable application fee, and then $40,000 for the license. I was referred to the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Equity. I was just wondering, like, what do they offer specifically, and are there any other resources for prospective cannabis business owners that are struck with the same financial hurdle like me?
So there are 3 websites you guys should be looking at on a regular basis. The first is Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation for the retail side. The DCEO, which is what he's talking about, the Department of Commerce and Economic Development. They're somewhat overseeing the social equity aspect and that loan program, up to $250,000 per business applicant. And then the other one is the Department of Agriculture. Those are your 3 favorite sites if you're looking to get involved in any way. So the bill is on there. The emergency rules are on the Department of Agriculture. The information about the loan program is on DCEO. So what you were asking was, other than what is DCEO offering, they are helping with the barrier to entry for those who have been affected by the war on drugs and those who are from disproportionately impacted areas that are trying to get into the plant touching side of the business. And those applicants, if they are awarded some sort of loan through DCEO, it's up to $250,000. You also, if you are social equity, get your application fee and your license cut in half the first year. So that's what DCEO is. They're standing in the gap for those who have been affected by the war on drugs and those who are from disproportionately impacted areas. And when I say that, I mean the company itself. So at least 51% or more of the company is social equity.
Any other questions? That's it? That's it for questions. All right. Well, thank you. You're not taking any more? Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to meet any of us, we'll be over to the side here to answer any additional questions one-on-one. Thank you.